My dearest brothers and sisters. This is Hakann speaking. Many people have sent in questions. To me, this is a good sign that humanity is waking up. I am grateful for all your questions.
Question: I am curious about Rh-negative blood lightworkers in children. Is there any specific mission connected to us? Why does this mutation exists on Earth at all? I believe it is an outcome of a DNA research. But since this mutation involves a high risk for pregnancy, I wonder how it is possible that there are still Rh-negative people existing? Is there a way we can utilize the gift connected to this mutation for the betterment of all people here? Or maybe it doesn't matter at all? Smile. Do you Pleiadians have many blood types or just one?
Answer: those are excellent and very perceptive questions, thank you. Rh-negative blood is actually associated with reptilians. People become wiser and more powerful if they have experiences and are touched by both the light and the dark. So from that point of view, having some reptilian-associated blood in your veins can be beneficial. People with Rh-negative blood are not automatically evil or bad. Beings have free will, Earthlings certainly, but reptilians also. People with Rh-negative blood are still free to choose their own actions. There are also some reptilians who are on the side of the light. Also, you don't need to have Rh-negative blood to be an effective light worker. The channeler does not have Rh-negative blood, for example. Not all Rh-negative light workers have the same mission. However, Rh-negative light workers are typically a bit more touched by the dark than other light workers, which give them an edge in certain tasks, such as directly researching or combating the forces of the dark. That said, I would primarily follow your own soul's guidance. It will take into account your blood group and many other things. Blood groups don't have a huge impact on your life, but they do have a slight impact. Other blood groups have slight advantages too. The Rh-negative mutation exists on Earth because lots of galactic races, including reptilians, long ago gave bits of their DNA to Earthlings. I described this in my message Hakann, History of Humanity. Since then, no one has interfered directly to eliminate Rh-negative blood, so it's still there. That is also why Earthlings look so different from one another. You have DNA from many different galactic races, and one Earthling has more DNA from one race and another Earthling has more DNA from another race. Conversely, from an Earthling perspective, all of us Pleiadians look quite similar to another. In Earthling terms, we also only have one blood group.
Question: can you see the change of our media narrative in the near future? By media I mean newspapers, radio and TV. We are staying patient in a shadow doing our work and raising the overall vibrations, but I believe media play a huge role in stopping people from waking up. I so wish for them all to understand the truth. Possibly it is much of a wish right now. Smile. Many thanks for asking the questions and for what you do.
Answer: yes, this is a question that is on many light workers' mind. I appreciate you for asking what many people want to know. Yes, it is very unfair and lonely and alienating that the media brainwashes most people. However, we Galactics are very hesitant to directly take over your media ourselves, for reasons outlined in the message, Hakann, History of Humanity. What we hope is that Earthling counterforces will take over the media relatively soon and start broadcasting truth. From our personal perspective, the Earthling counterforces are moving slower than is optimal. Unfortunately, while some Earthling counterforces might be opposed to the dark controllers who want to control everything, this does not automatically mean that the Earthling counterforces are selfless spiritual masters. Some Earthling counterforces are motivated by greed or personal power or by wanting their specific country to succeed, more than they want all of humanity to be free. Some Earthling counterforces still like the idea of them being richer or more powerful or more influential than other Earthlings. That said, from the perspective of the Earthling counterforces, we Galactics do not understand the situation on the ground, and they are already moving as quickly as is practically possible. There is certainly some truth to the statement that actually living on Earth gives them a more on-the-ground perspective than we get in our luxurious crafts up in the sky. That said, the sluggish pace of Earthling counterforces only slows down Earth's liberation. It does not stop it. At one point, your media will start reporting truth and the vast majority of Earthlings will be united once again. This is going to happen, it's just a question of when. Also, the more that light workers help to increase the overall vibration, the closer that the point will come when media starts broadcasting truth again. Thank you for helping with this.
Question: could you ask the Pleiadians about the Star Wars movies? I have heard it is partly based on real galactic history. Do galactics use lightsabers?
Answer: yes indeed, Star Wars was inspired by real galactic history. It is great that it and Star Trek have given Earthlings some soft disclosure. I've actually sat down and watched Star Wars, as opposed to just downloading it into my brain as I do with many other parts of Earth's culture. I liked it. I did not only enjoy seeing how real history was interpreted and turned into a quasi-fictional story by Earthlings, but I also just enjoyed the story for what it was. You Earthlings are excellent storytellers. I think that once Earth is free, very many galactics will want to hear the stories of Earth. In general, any work of fiction that strongly resonates with many people typically has some core of truth or some core of real hidden history to it. This doesn't mean that every word literally happened, just that some of it was inspired by real events. Lightsabers were sometimes used, but more for sport or ceremonially or as a curiosity than for serious combat. From our perspective, your guns are very primitive, but even they would beat a lightsaber in a fight. If I gave you a lightsaber, could you win against someone armed with an assault rifle or even a minigun? Probably not. I know that in the Star Wars stories, Jedis are supposed to be so good that they just stop or melt a swarm of bullets in mid-air, or dodge or parry that with supernatural speed. However, anyone who can actually do that, could also just disable an enemy combatant with a thought, which is more efficient than charging them with a lightsaber. Lightsabers are also not harder to avoid than one of our modern ranged weapons. For combat in the real world, galactics use ranged weapons, psychic abilities and in a pinch their bodies. I am trained in what you would think of as a martial art, although ours uses the conscious manipulation of energy and incorporates psychic abilities. Alternatively, a reptilian could easily just rip a Earthling apart even without any kind of special training or a weapon. That said, I cannot deny that lightsabers are kind of fun and cool. If you want to handle a real-life lightsaber and we consider you to be careful and responsible enough for that, we could lend you one for a while. There are so many wondrous things we would like to show you once we have landed.
Question: when do you think the galactics will begin contacting some of the lightworkers, physical contact? This is for Hakann.
Answer: a very few lightworkers have already been physically contacted. These are primarily world leader or military commander or special ops lightworkers, in order to coordinate and accomplish certain practical objectives. And in a few cases, we have physically sat down and talked with certain influential people, to give them information or to try and convince them to do certain things. We have not yet visited most lightworkers. For example, we haven't physically met the channeler yet, even though Tunia and I and a bunch of other galactics would love to meet him. In fact, we would love to meet all Earthling lightworkers, just for the joy of connecting with you. We have visited around 40% of lightworkers in their dreams, but often these dreams are not remembered. It is hard to predict when exactly conditions will be right for us to start physically contacting the bulk of lightworkers. It depends on the choices that Earthlings make. There's a good chance that this will happen between 2023 to 2026. But if Earthlings make choices that delay things, then it might only happen 20 years from now.
Question: I want to ask if the Pleiadian star system is mainly of what humans would consider white people?
Answer: yes. From your perspective, most Pleiadians look like white people, with a Nordic or Scandinavian appearance. That said, there are other advanced, benevolent, human-like galactics out there who do not have a white skin. Earthlings who look like us are not better or more valuable than Earthlings who do not look like us.
Question: do Pleiadians have pets? How is the relationship with their people? Also, are there wild animals there? In both cases, domestic or wild, do you have telepathic communication with them?
Answer: excellent questions. We do not have pets. We do have animal companions on our ships. These are not the property of any one individual, although these animals may choose to mostly spend their time with one or more specific individuals. The ship we are on is intelligent. The ship itself takes care of the animals. The animals do not attack us, for we are loving and unafraid. The animals have different levels of wildness to them. Some choose to spend most of their time with humans, others choose to spend most of their time among plants and trees and other animals on our ships. We can communicate telepathically with animals. Different animals have different levels of consciousness, so with some the communication is a bit more sophisticated than with others. It has happened that we traveled to a planet, some animals chose to come along for the trip and they then chose to stay on that planet. Of course, we let them. We have also picked up certain animals this way. Sometimes we joke that our ships are in fact animal transport vehicles, which the animals use to get from one planet to the other. We love animals. I actually have one licking my hand right now. We also think that certain animals are excellent at teaching certain lessons to our children.
Question: Is there a galactic federation of worlds?
Answer: yes, there is, but it is more a loose cooperation of beings who serve Source, than a formal entity that forces people to do what it says. As I discussed in my previous message, beings who genuinely serve Source do not write laws for other beings who serve Source. At most they will write guidelines or suggestions. So there is no set of laws that the Galactic Federation forces me to follow. That said, there are many beings in the Galactic Federation who have specific skills and information that I do not have. Hence I can better serve Source by talking and cooperating with fellow people from the Galactic Federation. This kind of cooperation is what makes up the Galactic Federation of Worlds. We do not have a formal hierarchy that is enforced with laws and punishment, but we do have what you could think of as a competency hierarchy. For example, people recognize that I have certain skills, so I am accepted as a military commander, which is roughly the equivalent of an Earth general. However, I and others recognize that, for example, Ashtar Sharon is wiser and generally more skilled than I am. So when far-reaching and complex decisions have to be made, his voice weighs heavier than mine. He is higher in the competency hierarchy than I am, and he deserves to be there. That said, even he cannot be everywhere at once, and so he delegates some work to me. Arcturians are generally more spiritually developed than us Pleiadians. When it comes to sophisticated spiritual questions, I am not that high in that particular competency hierarchy. So I will often consult with my Arcturian brothers and sisters on these matters. They have no formal authority over me, but they do have a recognized high place in that competency hierarchy, and it would be foolish of me to ignore that. I would not be serving Source to the best of my abilities if I ignored the advice of people who I know are wiser than me. Often placement in Earth hierarchies is not determined by competence but instead by power or wealth or nepotism or corruption or physical characteristics or by having the right views. Of course, we agree that this is bad. However, hierarchies are simply necessary in order for society to function. Just picture an operating room where something unexpected happens, and the surgeon can't act until he convinces the nurse that his act is the right one. Often the patient would just die in that case. So hierarchies are necessary. You just need to make sure that placement in the hierarchy is based on merit. Many of the problems that occur with Earth hierarchies are not present for us, because our primary concern is serving Source and not personal gain. Someone low in the competency hierarchy is not ashamed of being there, because he or she too is serving Source, just as people higher in the competency hierarchy are. Plus we have a growth mindset. I was an ordinary soldier at one time, and now I am a commander. Many positions high in the hierarchy require that you have done some lower position tasks for a time. We also live for many hundreds of years, so there is plenty of time to work our way up and try our hand at different tasks. And we are all mind readers, so it is very obvious to every one of us where people deserve to be in the respective competency hierarchies. People with less inborn gifts are loved just as much by Source as people with more inborn gifts, so who are we to consider them to have less value as people? This is also another advantage that positive extraterrestrials have over negative extraterrestrials. If someone at the very top of our hierarchy would die or get taken out, then we would very quickly find the most capable person and promote him or her to the top spot of our hierarchy. This would not have a big impact on the overall effectiveness of the Galactic Federation of Worlds. Conversely, if the top person in a negative hierarchy dies or gets taken out or even just shows weakness, then often there's paralysis in the organization, or a bloody power struggle, or the organization fractures into multiple new sub-organizations. So in summary, yes, there is a Galactic Federation of Worlds. It is a group of like-minded beings working together so that they may better serve Source. There is no Galactic Federation of World leadership that forces people who serve Source to follow certain laws. However, if Source asks them, they may intervene in situations where people are being directly harmed by someone else.
Question: I often see a tic-tac craft on our skies. Is there any reason why certain people see alien ships, or this is pure incident and there is no plan behind that?
Answer: we have indeed been saying hi to you in this way. We're happy to hear from you. We are able to cloak ourselves. Letting Earthlings see as us a conscious choice that we generally only make for two reasons, and you've seen us in both contexts. One reason is to wake up groups of people to the fact that we Galactics exist, and to make people a bit more accustomed to our presence. For this, we choose to appear in places where that is beneficial for the people there to see us. We do enjoy showing ourselves to Earthlings and energetically feeling their reactions, but we will only do so if we judge this to be beneficial for those Earthlings. The other is to wave to one particular individual. We might just want to say hi, or to show that we haven't forgotten them, or that they are not crazy and that we really do exist. Often this individual is a light worker, and sometimes this individual has shared past lives with some of us. Recall that most Pleiadians are many hundreds of years old. So it's entirely possible that two adult-age Pleiadians are friends or lovers or family members. Then perhaps one of them transitions and is now an adult Earthling, but the other Pleiadian is still alive and still remembers their friend or lover or family member. For example, the channeler in one past life was born as a Pleiadian. Then he chose relatively quickly to end that Pleiadian life in order to be born on Earth. However, his Pleiadian mother is still alive today and still loves him dearly. She would love to meet up with the channeler once more. So as you can see, many of you Lightworkers have galactic brothers and sisters and fathers and mothers and sons and daughters alive today, who still knew you from when you shared a past life with them. And they sometimes wave at you by showing themselves in a ship. Many of us Pleiadians don't only see you Earthlings as our metaphorical brothers and sisters. Some of us Pleiadians alive today literally remember spending time with you when you were physically living with us in one of your past lives. The same goes for the other galactic races, such as Arcturians. And yes, we are very eager to meet you once more. That time is coming. Thank you all for your questions. I love you very much. In the medium term, very good times indeed are coming. Your star brother, Hakann.